question, how will George Williams do? So, part 2 of this episode is to look at 2020 and the players that are going to be in the NRL in 2020. We've done a little bit of talking about some of those guys, but this is where we'll have a bit more of a question over them. This is where the loving moves into a challenge, I would suggest. So, I've written down a few questions that I'd like you guys to answer. So, Paul, I'm going to ask you first. Can Bateman continue to have the same impact, do you think, in the NRL? Obviously, he's going to miss the first 6 or 7 rounds, but after that, when he's back in that Canberra side, do you think his impact will be able to be the same as it was last year, or was he maybe a surprise package and second album might be difficult, as it were?
Yeah, no, I'm going to say yes, but teams will be more aware. You know, they will be watching him, they will be doing homework on him. It'll be tougher for him, but I think he's good enough to get past all that.
Yeah, well, in the Great Britain games, everyone knew about him, didn't they? And he was the one player that teams couldn't really stop doing what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that bodes well for him, definitely. Rich, obviously you've seen absolutely tons of Callum Watkins over the years, the highs, the lows, the goods, the bads. Do you think he will make it as an NRL player? You know, this season's kind of with the stage he's at in his career, the age he's at, and that sort of thing. This is a make or break season to say, will he have an NRL career or not? What's your feelings at this stage on Callum Watkins?
My feelings were, prior to seeing it, some very brief highlights. But the highlights I saw, I was really impressed with what he did for the Titans in the pre-season warm-up. But it is only a warm-up, and I'm still leaning towards that. My gut feeling is that he probably won't make it. I'm not sure how many games he's going to get an opportunity to play this year. However, I think he does have an opportunity to make it in terms of Holbrook will give him the chance, and he's probably got the best set up there with, Holbrook having those Super League connections and knowing who he is. And I think it's one of them where there's an opportunity for him to have a go and to have a stab at it. Now, whether he will make it, I'm not sure, but I believe he's going to get an opportunity to do so. I just think his defence has always been his Achilles heel, and if you don't get that right, then you're nothing. I think luckily that he's at the Titans, and expectations are never high there. Sorry, Paul.
Paul, do you agree, though, Paul, that it's kind of, at this point, got the best opportunity you could possibly have at the Titans,
like I said,
in that they've got a coach who's not a fucking waste of space, basically.
Yeah. The other thing that helps Super League. The other thing that helps him too is the Titans have got no one else.
Yeah.
Like, who are they going to drop it for?
Yeah.
We've got a great forward pack, the Titans, but our back line is there's not much there.
So you think he's so obviously you think he's going to get an opportunity to prove himself.
Yeah, I think
what's your feel? Will he be a player who spends 2 or 3 years at the Titans, or will he be a player looking for a Super League contract come 2021?
How old is he now?
These are the questions why I had my internet browser up. I'll answer that one shortly.
It's 28. He made his debut in 2010, I think.
I think it just takes 2 or 3 good games. He has 2 or 3 good games. I think he gets his confidence up.
It's his birthday next week, so he'll be 29 by the start of the season.
29, yeah.
I can see it. If he has a good year, then I can see Holbrook giving him another contract. Also depends on how much money he's on too.
So. Yeah. Fair play. Okay, Paul, we sort of hinted at this maybe just before, but do you think Farnworth will break through? Obviously, the Broncos have got a very talented sort of production line. They've got forwards who could be outstanding wingers. I mean, do you think Farnworth will break through, or do you maybe think he's not going to have the build or the characteristics?
Yeah, it's the build. Like the wingers in Australia are just huge. You know, they're all 6'4", 110 kilos. And then can jump as well. And, they're really good on those yardage sets coming out of your own end.
If you're not that, you need to be like world-class sprinter pace, don't you, almost?
Yeah. Or be able to score like Tom Johnston, No, unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see it.
Fair enough. Rich, do you think
I
it's
thought
different?
when I'd seen him in the pre-season, not this year but last year, did he not play in the halves?
I think he played fullback.
All right,
more
okay,
so.
yeah.
But yeah, he played a bit more ball-playing role than being when he played in the NRL, he tended to play. I think he played wing and centre. I think he played one game, which is not.
He's played.
Not his gig. That.
No, I
thought
he was
a wing.
Yeah. And when you do your Google research on him, because I was like, with Brodie Croft going there, not Brodie Croft. Is it Brodie Croft who went there?
Brodie Croft's gone there to play in the halves. Yeah.
So I was like, oh well, he ain't going to get a chance then, because for some reason I thought it was a six, or someone who was going to end up in the halves, or in a pivot position. But I've not really seen enough of him to know that. And when I've done a bit of research on him, that is.
So his 2 NRL games last year, he played one on the wing and one in the centre. And I certainly don't think he's going to make an NRL centre, unfortunately, unless he does a lot of different gym work.
No. So look, I don't know. You'd have to ask a Broncos fan, but I'm not really sure, mate.
The biggest question: do we think George Williams will be a success? And do you know what? I'm going to lead in on this one because I love George Williams for all the fact that he can frustrate. This is a player who's got the absolute full skill set to create things. He has had moments against higher level opposition than Super League opposition. He absolutely ran the show in the 2018 World Cup Challenge. Whether or not that was because the 2017 World Cup Challenge, but whether or not that was because Cronulla didn't really take the game seriously, I'm not sure. But he was the standout player on the pitch in that game for me. And there was a game against New Zealand at Anfield a couple of seasons ago where he basically did what he wanted with that New Zealand side and created lots of opportunities either for himself or for his teammates in that one, I thought, and showed that he can play at that higher level. It's just my biggest question is how will he fit in a side that already has a half that wants to do more running than sort of teeing the game up. Now, Paul, you made a point before about Hodgson wanting to be the guy that runs the show and wondering if that'll actually work with having halfbacks that demand the ball. But for me, what Hodgson likes to run is almost like what they start with, so he can do the positional kicking and those sorts of boring parts of the job that are essential for most great halfbacks to be able to do. But it seems that if you've got a hooker who can do it pretty well, your halfbacks don't need to do it as well. So I actually think that'll help Williams rather than hinder Williams' time, because he won't have to be the man in charge, and when he has to be the man in charge, that's when he struggles. But when he can be the man who gets the ball and does something, he can totally be a top performer. That's my take, but obviously that comes from watching this kid from being 17 years old through to being the 24, 25-year-old player that he is now, that I just absolutely have adored. Paul, what do you think? Do you think George Williams will be a success? Do you think it can break through into a halfback actually doing something in the NRL?
Oh, I don't know. Like I said, those questions I have. Hodgson kind of running the show. I don't know. The other big question mark is Ricky Stewart has a horrible record with coaching halfbacks. He goes through his halfbacks like you wouldn't believe. He puts a lot of pressure on the halfbacks because he was such a great half. I think he finds it hard, that a player can't do what he used to do on the field. And
okay.
That is another question mark I have.
What about you, Rich? Do you think he'll be a success, or am I just clutching at straws here?
No, and I think my sentiment's the same as Paul, is that Ricky Stewart was such a one of the greatest halfbacks to play, but he came through an era where he had Peter Sterling and Alfie Langer, and there's still this angry little, even though he played for Australia, New South Wales and excelled, there's still this angry, which he was, this angry, brutal, niggly little halfback in there, and his expectations of his halves are off the charts, really. It'd be nice to think that he can actually conjure the best out of Williams. I'm not sure whether he can. I'm interested to see how two running halfbacks play together. If you're going to have a traditional NRL split where you play both sides of the field, one halfback takes one side, one takes the other, then there's maybe some legs in it. But
they both want to take the same side of the field in that, then, don't they? Because Williams has done most of his career as the left-sided halfback, and Whiten last year in his first year as a halfback, where he did very well, played exclusively down. I don't even remember seeing him turn up even on the other side of the pitch. At least Williams occasionally floated over to the right-hand side of the pitch.
Yeah.
I don't think Whiten did once.
This is it. Yeah, there's a lot of questions, isn't there? But look, how many of us thought that Josh Hodgson would ever be, battling Cameron Smith neck and neck to take out the Dally M
Hooker of the Year,
player of the year, but a player of the year the year before last, and the year before he had his injury, and Hooker of the Year, and so I don't know. I'd like to think he's gonna make a success, but it's certainly one to watch, isn't it?
I suppose Josh Hodgson's success has been built on him being the type of player who'll run through a wall for you, whereas I don't know.
Or a door.
Or a door.
Yeah, I don't know if George Williams is. I think he needs a bit more of a supportive arm sometimes, George Williams, and it sounds like you guys doubt that he'll get that from Ricky Stewart, which is a real shame. Do you think it'll help him, though, that he's going to have some of his mates there? Ryan Sutton is a player that he basically played all his career coming through with. John Bateman is a great character that obviously has had a relationship with at Wigan as well. And then there's the other couple of English guys there too, which will, and Whitehead and Hodgson probably are two of the leaders in that dressing room nowadays, aren't they? So that will help give him a supportive option. But I think he'll need support, because with George Williams, there's times where he'll frustrate, there's times where he won't do what you want him to do as consistently as you expect. And I think as long as he can get through that spell and not feel like he's not good enough, which sometimes on the international scene I think he's been left to feel like he's not good enough by other people getting selected over him when he's had a great game the week before.
Well, here's a bit of pressure for you. There's the famous saying in NRL that if you're going to win a grand final, you've got to lose one to win one.
Yeah.
So Ricky Stewart and the expectations from that club will be, it's this year or next year. So they've got to win a grand final, and he's going to be a 7 who's got to win a grand final, and that'll be the test of his career. And I'm not, how brutal is that? But the expectation at Canberra is they made a grand final, they were unlucky not to win it, that they will be hunting, and Williams has got to hold his own, and not only hold his own, be a match winner with Whiten. You know what I mean? So it's big.
I think that's the thing with George Williams. He can definitely be a match winner. Whether in the NRL he can consistently be a big match winner is that question mark. But he comes into this side as one of the few players in that squad, along with Sutton and Bateman, who have tasted success at that level. They've won World Club challenges, they've won World Club Challenge, they've won grand finals. His career at Wigan in the first team really started in 2014. He played in a grand final. He played in a grand final the next year. He played in a grand final and won it the year after that. And 2 years after that, he played in another grand final and won it. So he is actually probably the most experienced in that squad in those big games, sort of strangely. So maybe he can add to that element if he can bring confidence to the side.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that the other thing that's kind of going to hurt him, if he's going to play on the right, the Raiders have just lost their right edge with Joey Leilua and Jordan Rapana both leaving the club too, and they were responsible for a lot of their points and a lot of their attack in the last few years. So he's got his work cut out for him.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they shuffle the rest of the team around, isn't it? I mean, will Cottridge stay as a winger, or will he become the right centre, or is the other options there? Will the fullback have the same impact that he had last year? Because if he doesn't, if he has a poor season, there's always going to be a situation where they might move Whiten back to fullback, or Whiten's even played rep games at centre, hasn't he? So
yeah.
So then the question of will Williams and Whiten work together won't be quite as much of a conundrum, I suppose. Right.
Yeah.
Go on.
Go on, sorry, I'll let you move on. No, go on, you're all right, mate.
Well, I don't want people to listen to this and think, oh, it's just Mark